QAnon and other conspiracy theories damage the credibility of religious faith.
Conspiracy theories are closely related to religious faith.
The American Religious Town Hall meeting is now in session.
Welcome, friends, to the American Religious Town Hall meeting, where the discussion of religious, political, and social issues is meant to promote the cause of religious freedom and to help us better understand each other. And now, here is your host and moderator.
Hello, viewers. Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Andrea Laxton. I am the moderator for today, and also I'm president of Andrews University in Michigan. I'd like you to meet our team members.
I'm Bishop Michael Olson, and I serve as the Bishop of the Roman Catholic Diocese of Fort Worth.
Hi, I'm Rabbi Dan Levin. I serve as Senior Rabbi at Temple Bethel in Boca Raton, Florida.
And I'm Tom Plumley. I'm the Senior Minister at First Christian Church in Fort Worth, Texas. We're a part of the Christian Church Disciples of Christ.
And now for today's topic. Recently, a large church in Fort Worth, Texas, announced plans to build a facility to house and care for survivors of human trafficking. When it did so, many in the neighborhood asked for a meeting where they could ask questions about the project. The local newspaper reported that at the meeting, one of the pastors of the church stated, she is, quote, not too fond of facts, quote, unquote, because they are gathered by governments whose leaders are clients of human trafficking. That government leaders in the US and other countries are involved in a dark global conspiracy of pedophiles and human traffickers is, of course, one of the core tenets of QAnon, a conspiracy theory that has evolved into a movement that is controversial. We've talked about this phenomena before on this program, but today we want to ask why it seems to be taking hold in religion. QAnon seemed to have been dying out after the 2020 elections until it took on a completely new life in churches. Now studies show that perhaps as many as 1 in 4 white evangelicals believe the core tenets of QAnon. And a stunning 15% of all Americans agree that media, government, and the financial world all are controlled by a group of Satan-worshipping cannibals who traffic in children. Russell Moore, a respected leader among evangelicals, reports that he receives calls literally every day from clergy exhausted by people in their congregations who espouse QAnon or related conspiracy theories. Ed Stetzer, one of the deans at Wheaton College in Illinois, said, quote, QAnon runs on the tracks that faith has laid, end of quote. That sounds like a call that requires a response from the faith leaders on our panel. So some of the questions that we are going to address today is, number one, do you know people who are caught up in QAnon? Are there any in your congregations or your community? If Stetzer is right at all, what might there be about faith that has laid down the tracks for this and other related conspiracy theories? And finally, how do religious leaders respond to this situation without being denounced as political? Okay, that's our conversation, and I'll pass over to those that started with the cliffhangers.
I think the difference, these conspiracy theories are really deal in credulity, all right, as opposed to faith. Credulity involves distrust, whereas faith requires trust. And so there are partial truths that are taken by conspiracy theories, and then a story is constructed around them, which at certain times appears plausible. All right, so the great the great crime and the great societal and worldwide problem of human trafficking is true. There are people who are making money off of this. That is true. And then it can go off the rails by saying, this group of people have all of these things in common, and therefore they are part of this worldwide conspiracy. And soon the conspiracy becomes so big is that the only people who are not involved in it are you and me, and I'm not so sure about you right now. And I think that's, it grows on fear, it fosters fear, and there's never enough facts available to really settle the question for people. In fact, the more facts that people get, the more they want to doubt them, the more the distrust comes about, and ultimately what leads is isolation and a response in fear. Well, since faith involves a sense of trust, these conspiracy theories really harm a person's capacity to trust. And so they approach religious authorities, religious traditions, with a hermeneutic of suspicion. And they are never quite totally satisfied that things are on the up and up. Now, what has harmed and what has made conspiracy theories, I think, a little more pliable and believable to people is the violation of trust that has been committed by religious leaders, but also by government leaders, where they, especially in the sense of government leaders, where spin is just the language of the day, and where direct discourse is not present. And so that's also going to foster a sense of distrust that's going to make people more prone to follow conspiracy theories like QAnon.
Thank you. I wanted to follow up on Ed Stetzer's comment that QAnon runs on the tracks that faith has laid down. And you need to understand, Stetzer is a professor at Wheaton College, which is not known for having one whit of liberalism in it. Okay. So this is a very conservative institution, and also Russell Moore, spokesperson for the Southern Baptist Convention, is nowhere near there as well. I think what Stetzer is talking about is the way some people have been taught their faith. The way some people have been taught Christian faith, to be specific about it, and that has to do with what I would call a hyper-individualism in one's relationship with God, to the extent that we lose any notion of the common good. Okay? Everything's just between me and God. Have I been saved? Do I have a relationship with Jesus as my Lord and Savior? Have I been baptized? Have I made a confession of faith? Have I? That is part of what leads us into the realm of being able to question anybody but me or God. Okay? Also, apocalypticism fits into this, as it has been taught by many, which gets, apocalypticism is a part of Christian theology, but when it is taught in the sense that all the world is bad, and that the righteous are going to be raptured out of it, we're forgetting that the basis of Christian faith is that God so loved the world that God gave of God's very self, God's own Son. So I think that's the sort of thinking that Stetzer is thinking leads us to this point where a large segment of the Christian community, a way too large segment, an embarrassingly large segment of the Christian community, has been led to at least being willing to wink at and not immediately reject some of this QAnon wackadoo
Thank you.
behavior.
So, I think that the folks that formulate these kinds of conspiracy theories are really sophisticated. And they understand how to spin it in a way that fits into the kinds of predispositions that people of faith already share. So as I think you all said, right? First of all, people of faith tend to be more willing than others to suspend reason and to allow for the possibility of things that are beyond reason to be true. The other thing is that people who follow Western traditions are invested in the idea of a Messiah, of a Savior. And so if you take QAnon as an example of a conspiracy theory, who do they other? They take the most visceral, hateful thing that a person could be or do, pedophilia, human trafficking, and they say, those other people that we don't like are them, and practice that hideous, horrible, visceral thing that makes you just curdle in revulsion. And then they say, there is a Savior, a hidden Savior out there who's going to redeem us if you follow the hidden paths embedded in the text to conquer this terrible evil, and you had better be on the side of good or you're going to go down with all the evil people. Well, does that sound like anything familiar to anybody? And I think that because it is so resonant of Western religious tradition, people are more enamored with it. So it's an incredibly pernicious thing. But it draws on, I think, an element of human need for control. Right? I see the world out there, and there are forces that are impacting my life in either real ways or in perceived ways over which I wish I had control, but I can't exercise control. But if I believe that somebody out there does have control because they have superior knowledge, special insight, a greater superpower, right? And I can attach my train to that, then all of a sudden I have power that I didn't have before. I have control that I never knew how to express before. I'm on the side of right and good. My life now has meaning and purpose. And you know what? We're in a club now. So I have community too, because you believe and I believe and all the people on my chat believe and all the people at the QAnon little meetings that I go to believe. And now all of a sudden I've created a whole corpus of meaning for my life. So how do religious systems compete with things that smell an awful lot like, as Stetzer writes, like religious systems? And the answer, I believe, is exactly what you said, Bishop, where you said we have to replace credulity with faith. And we have to go back to what are the core principles and tenets of our faith, which is about truth and about love and about openness, and try to get away from this us versus them mentality that feeds on that. And to help people feel a sense of empowerment through an authentic faith, through an authentic expression of right and good. Because I think that if people have the choice of choosing the fantastical versus the authentic will end up being more compelling. But I think part of the reason why the conspiracy theories like QAnon have been so resonant is because they replace something that is missing in the lives even of deeply religious and faithful people.
So I have a question for you, Rabbi. We've talked about this being a frighteningly large percentage of the Christian community. What about the Jewish community?
I think what you see is that people who are willing to embrace a fundamental faith tend to be more susceptible to the embrace of conspiracy theories because they're already primed to have a less skeptical, more open approach to things that would necessarily defy reason.
And by fundamental, you mean fundamentalist.
Fundamentalist, right? So in the Jewish world, the people that tend to be most open to conspiracy theories are the people in the Haredi community, the ultra-Orthodox community, because they're already looking at the world through that lens of, it doesn't have to make sense. As long as I believe in the Messiah, I'm okay with things that don't make sense, because I live in a world that is based solely on faith, and I have subsumed my faith, or I've subsumed reason to my faith.
So do we think this is a problem, a society problem that's driving this, or is it a problem that is intrinsically within the faith communities that's the problem?
Oh, I think it's a human problem.
It's a human. Okay.
I think in part, I mean, obviously, I think societally it is a problem. I think religious people, especially, those who are faithful practitioners of it and who believe, especially in a transcendent God, and perhaps emphasize God's transcendence more than his immanence, are prone to believe it. But even you see, I would expand it to a human societal problem in some sense where, I mean, for example, you take the assassination of John F. Kennedy. I mean, people will tell you today that, and they think that they are being faithful to history, that Vice President Lyndon Johnson orchestrated the assassination of John F. Kennedy, and that is demonstrably a proven fact. And in order to, expand the Vietnam War and all this, because they've heard this so often, and they don't take the time to know real history. I think part of the current religion today, which so often is fostered by popular culture, or is popular culture, has just rewritten history along with the lines of some things that are just absolutely incredulous, but are accepted, according to the gospel of Oliver Stone. I mean, that's the honest to goodness truth.
It's very true. I would also just add that I think it's not just religious people that,
right.
It's the human needs for faith, that people want to have the idea that there are others to partner with them to deliver the world, that we all need purpose, that we require answers. That's a human need. There's a reason why people are drawn to religion, because it satisfies those needs. But I think there are a lot of people who are drawn to conspiracy theories because it satisfies the religious needs that they don't have in any faith community, because they're not in any faith community. The one thing that I also think about is that these conspiracy theories play on what is called the Dunning-Kruger effect. The Dunning-Kruger effect is that the less you know about something, the more likely you are to be very confident in what you think you know. Right? They are the proof that a little knowledge is dangerous. Because what do they say? Go do your homework. Well, where are you doing your homework? On the websites they provide you to do your homework, right? So now I feel like I have the knowledge, so now I'm very confident in my knowledge, but I don't really have meaningful knowledge. I have enough to feel confident.
Right.
We in the Christian community have been here before. We've done this before. In the early church, we called this Gnosticism. That there is this secret knowledge, that there is one that is beyond the rest of us, that has the answers. And that was declared heresy in the 3rd century.
Yeah.
And
it's never left us.
And it's never left us.
Yeah. I think it's also just one other thing I think for people, to maybe, when they examine their thoughts on this sort of thing, none of these conspiracy theories involve any sort of commitments outside of somebody's self. I mean, there's no commitment to service, there's no responsibilities. You just believe it, and you're part of the secret club, and that's it. And I think faith calls us to service as well as to trust.
I think also, we talk about QAnon now. That's sort of the flavor of the day. But, these conspiracy theories over history were often incredibly dangerous, right? Things like the blood libel that was labeled against Jews, or the protocols of the Elders of Zion, which are still being promulgated in various parts of the world, or the idea of the Illuminati. It's all the same idea that there's these people out there and they have the control over the world, and if it sort of gives me power to be able to identify them because I particularly feel powerless.
Good. Well, in a moment we're going to take a break, and then when we come back, maybe we can, how can we advise people out there when they're faced with people in their communities who believe this? How do they deal with it? And let's have a break.
We hope you're enjoying today's program. If you'd like to learn more about the American Religious Town Hall, please visit our website at americanreligious.org. That's americanreligious.org. There you can read about the vision and history of the program, and we invite you to become a ministry partner, explore our Town Hall Estates healthcare facilities, and view past programs by clicking the appropriate menu buttons. Each week, we look forward to receiving your letters. You may write us at the address shown on your screen. Send your letters to American Religious Town Hall Meeting, P.O. Box 180118, Dallas, Texas 75218. If you have a prayer request, please send it to prayerrequest@americanreligious.org. Thank you for writing, and thank you for watching. Now, back to today's closing statements.
Welcome back, everybody. I hope that you've already learned a few things today, and maybe it's put a few important questions in your mind. We'll move into some closing comments now. So.
Oh, I think that a good distinction between these sort of QAnon conspiracies and authentic faith or religious faith for our own examination for people out there, a couple of things. What does, first of all, I think they're both spiritual endeavors, but not everything spiritual is necessarily of God. And not everything spiritual essentially gives life. And I would say if somebody, with so much of this QAnon conspiracy, it's very discouraging. And when you consider these things, discouragement never comes from God, not the true God. And I think that's something to consider. Does faith give you confidence? Not autonomy, but confidence. Faith calls you to service, not just simply to reaction. While faith engages us on the emotional level, it also leads us beyond just simple stimulation of our passions and emotions. Faith calls us outward to God and to others. These conspiracy theories call us into a deeper sense of isolation, where we become not part of a community, but really part of a gang.
Thank you. Dr. Luxton, you closed our conversation a while ago by asking us to think about what can the church do about it now, or what can religious communities do about this sort of thing now. I think we have to look back at what's been promoted for so long, and counter some of those notions. One of those things that we've had drilled into our head over and over and over and over and over again is that government is a burden. No, government is not a burden. Government is us. Yes, it has foibles, and it can become a pain sometimes, but it is us, and we have the ability to change it. That all politicians are corrupt. No, they're not. Some of them are really good people, and if you are being taught that all of them are corrupt, you need to think again. That media is evil. No, media is a tool by which we communicate with each other. Some of the things that go over media can be, but the big, broad, general media, no, it is not an evil. And that journalists are bad people that stand in the way of rugged individualists getting things done. Yeah, they can sometimes get in the way, but they offer they play a vital role in the functioning of democracy. And if we can turn around some of those misconceptions or overstatements, sometimes lies that we've been told about some of those things, then perhaps we can get ourselves out of some of these holes that we're in.
Thank you.
I think you touch on something that's really important, which is, all of these conspiracy theories only work so long as you're willing to stereotype people you don't know, right? So if I want to stereotype who works in government, I want to stereotype people from the other political party, I want to stereotype those people from the other religious tradition, these people that I don't know. The best way to break down a conspiracy theory is to say, go know the other. Break down those stereotypes. Try to do what the traditions that we all follow says to do, which is to love our neighbors, to love the stranger, to get out of our comfort zones and our echo chambers and try to engage the other. And then we will realize that the foundation on which these conspiracy theories are built is complete sand, and it's not real. And I think if we can do that, we may be able to enjoy what you say, Bishop, is authentic faith, right? That is built on the real values of knowledge and wisdom and compassion and justice and freedom and love and peace.
Great, thank you very much. I think we've heard various approaches here. So if you have individuals in your realm of influence who do believe in QAnon and do follow that, I'd want you to just stand back and think about what's going on and look maybe at perhaps approaching it a different way. The Charter of the American Religious Town Hall provides that Roman Catholics, Protestants, Jews, educators, and others may appear on this program and can declare their beliefs without hesitancy, and the rest of the members of the panel will uphold and guarantee that American rights to all who will appear, irrespective of race or creed, so that the rest of the world can see that here in America we believe in civil and religious freedom, not only in theory but in reality. And now, friends, until next week at the same time and over the very same channel, the American Religious Town Hall meeting stands adjourned. And may the God of all of us bless all of you.